You're listening to the Miracles in Meat podcast. I'm Shane Thibodaux, a fourth-generation butcher at one of the oldest meat markets in the world. My great-grandfather started this business by slaughtering one cow or pig at a time and selling the cuts door-to-door on horse and buggy. Today, our products are enjoyed across the globe. I will attempt to give you some insight as to how we got here and explore the challenges we've had along the way. At Bourgeois, our mission is to preserve our heritage generation after generation through legendary Cajun flavors and the development of relationships, not customers. Since 1891, Bourgeois has maintained age-old culinary traditions that fuel the South Louisiana lifestyle. Over the past 133 years, our Cajun products have gained global recognition, and for tens of thousands of folks around the world, the Bourgeois Cajun Lady logo is a symbol of home. Today, the fourth-generation butchers sit at the 9-foot maple block with loyal customers to discuss the adventures, skills, and passions that guide each of their legacies. These conversations will become priceless resources for future generations of any industry. This is our way of maintaining the spirit, purpose, and traditions of our lost arts in a world of change. 133 years, 4 generations. We're just getting started. All right, next up we got some questions. If you go to our website, bourgeoismeatmarket.com, you click on Miracles in Meat podcast at the top. That's the page that has all of our podcast episodes. Keep scrolling. You're going to see a form that says submit a question to the podcast. You can submit a question, comment, concern, feedback, something like that. You can even upload an audio file and do a little something like that. We'll either read it or we'll play it on a future episode. So if you didn't know that was there, go check it out. Send us something. We love to get these questions because a lot of the questions we take for granted, and we think everyone knows the answers to them. But I guess it's obvious that we don't do a good job pushing our info out there. So this is a little bit for fun and a little bit to help people out. So send them in. All right, here's a question from Sean. I am currently serving in the Ukrainian army on the front lines. Unfortunately, U.S. Customs does not allow shipment directly to the frontline regions, but I see that the beef sticks can last 6 weeks unrefrigerated. They can make the trip even with us having to use a middleman in western Ukraine. My question is, are there any import restrictions on beef into Ukraine? Beef is just so hard to find here. I would love to get a little taste of home and its beef. Call sign Louisiana. Thanks for the question, Sean. That's a great question. So I did look this up, and there are restrictions on beef import. So you cannot import in, they call it small quantities for personal use through a personal or standard courier service. Now, maybe a way around this is, I don't know if you have any contacts at the American Embassy there, but I used to work at the American embassies overseas, and the way we got our mail was through a diplomatic pouch service. So it's not addressed to an APO or DPO like it would be to a regular, like say, Marine Corps base in the States. It's an address in Dulles, Virginia. It just looks like a U.S. address, but it's routed straight to the embassy. And I don't know if those restrictions will be any tighter. So maybe they won't be. And maybe there's no problem getting jerky. I've never had problems getting jerky through the diplomatic, they call it the pouch. I've never had problems getting jerky or any of our stuff through the pouch when I was over there. I was in Haiti, Hungary, Korea, and Algeria, and I never had a lick of trouble, but I don't know if we actually had any local import restrictions at any of those places. So that's one thing. Number 2, we can definitely do the middleman idea, and I'd love to help you figure that out. And this goes for anyone. If you have any questions just like this, which this is not an uncommon question, it's not an uncommon type of question. We always have family members looking to send some beef jerky and stuff to their guys overseas, and it always seems to be a bit of a trouble. But if you just reach out to us, if you're trying to do it online and you're trying to check out online and it's giving you trouble, just call us or email us and we'll get you taken care of. I promise you that we will try to get those guys what you're trying to send them. So thanks for the question, Sean. I know that probably didn't answer your question, but look, I'm here to help you out. So let's try to work this thing through. Thanks, man. Here we go, Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois. He is the creator of Duck Camp Dinners. I think maybe 3 or 4 seasons. It revolves around their experience at the duck hunting camp in South Louisiana, right here in Bayou Black. If you haven't checked out Duck Camp Dinners, definitely go give it a watch. It's awesome if you love the outdoors, or if you love cooking and you just like this culture that we have down here. And they highlight that really well. And you may have seen us, if you have watched it, Season 1, Episode 1, Jean-Paul comes to the market to get his smoked sausage and andouille and boudin and beef jerky and all the stuff that he always gets when he goes to the camp. And anyway, we're lucky enough to be a part of that first filming of the first episode. So that was really cool. So Jean-Paul is also a graduate of the John Folse Culinary Institute at Nicholls, which is a pretty big deal in the culinary world if you don't know that already. And since then, he's kind of traveled the world, worked at several high-end restaurants, and creating a very cool life for himself. And we talk all about that. And it's going to be me, Bo, and Jean-Paul. And we kind of get into everything, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois.
One of the few podcast hosts in my life that's been able to seamlessly pronounce that name without
all of the names,
all the names without trying like off mic for a few times. Like that happens every podcast. It's like, you want to be called Chef JP? Is it Jean, John, Jean,
John
like,
Jingleheimer Smith?
Kind of wrong on everyone just now, but if it helps, you can call me JP or Chef. But you, Shane, I mean, come on,
perfect.
Come on,
I'm pretty good at this, man. All right, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got where you are right now.
Oh, man.
And where are you right now?
Working my way backwards. I live in Florida at the moment, and I'm in town visiting my folks who are, live here in Thibodaux, and with my 3-year-old. And, what do I do now? Man, that's a question I haven't been able to even, answer to my own family specifically or consistently in the last 5 years. And the real answer is I do a little bit of everything. Some social media work, some brand work, some recipes work, some long form content, social content, private appearances. I do a little bit of private guest chefing. And, I try to not, I feel like I've done a good job at this, and it's just something that, I learned a long time ago, probably from watching my own dad just slave away at being a lawyer and having nothing else, is try to have some different buckets of revenue and not depending on one thing. And so that's what I really try to do. There's nothing that I do that I absolutely depend on. And that's what keeps my world, it's a little chaotic living like that, right? Sure. But I feel like it's a different form of security. Right, like some people feel really secure in a 9-to-5 and a constant 401k and health insurance and something like that. And I hear that. I've done that as well. The other side of that is if that's gone, what you got, And I don't know. So I kind of went the other way and tried to find myself dabbling in all sorts of little ventures, I guess.
And I'm sure you got started in the cooking just at home, right? Was that your first?
Yeah. I mean, I say this, all the time is I can credit my parents in a large part for my interest in cooking. They were both and still are pretty good cooks. Don't cook as much anymore, being 75 and 80. But yeah, certainly my dad had a bunch of friends, men that loved to cook and often were at our house or other houses or, different parties, and always seeing men in the kitchen obviously made a impact on me at a young age. I stood in the kitchen with them for as long as I can remember. And when I was at Nicholls at John Folse, we were at orientation. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and we passed the culinary school, John Folse Culinary Institute. And I remember looking at it. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I said, well, I've always liked cooking. I've always been pretty good at cooking. Maybe I'll try that.
Maybe I can make some money doing it.
And here we are.
That's so cool.
Here we are.
Is it true that your dad worked at the market at one time?
That's what he said.
I heard that.
He said that. Now, he said that it wasn't for long because he ended up sticking a knife or a butcher's knife in the grinder trying to get some meat, I guess, passed through the auger.
Yeah.
Which is what I can only imagine the reason he do it. Of course, there is always a possibility he just did it intentionally just to piss someone off. That tends to be his angle sometimes.
I put a knife through your grinder not long ago, so
yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, that's equivalent. Now I can see that happening, especially from somebody who's like being trained as like he's just a part-time butcher or grinder or whatever. I see that people with VitaPreps, the VitaPrep blenders. Are you familiar with those? Now they often have a hole on the top, and they have a stick that comes with it that you're able to put through that hole, and it doesn't go far enough to hit the blade. It's meant to stir what's ever inside that container. But too often, people want to put a wooden spoon down there because they can't find the stick, and eats up that wooden spoon pretty good.
Wooden spoon, piece of rebar, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever you got.
A grinder does just like that, but wow.
Boy, is it loud. It's intense.
And something more than one thing is breaking and flying across the room.
All right, so Nicholls Culinary, and then where from there?
Nicholls Culinary, graduated in 2006, moved to California, Napa Valley specifically.
With a job lined up?
No. Nowhere I've ever moved, I ever had a job lined up.
I like it.
It's just
pressure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I like to think I'm a somewhat pretty humble guy. I don't find myself to be an expert in many things, but at a very young age, I felt like I could go anywhere in the country and get a job cooking. Mm-hmm. And that's what gave me confidence to move on to. And that, again, I think that confidence was built from growing up in South Louisiana, being a son of parents that cooked, seeing men cook in kitchens, going to culinary school and getting the finer side of things at John Folse, and then just moving on. I just felt like, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was actually packing your bags and leaving. Leaving your friends, leaving your family, leaving a culture that you love, leaving a culture that you believe in, just in search to like grow your own art form, right? Like, if I say it like that, it's like, come on, like you love cooking that much? You like developing your craft that much, and you leave everything you ever knew behind, move across the country to a place that is far, far different from where you grew up, in the middle of wine country, Napa Valley, to grow your career? And that answer is absolutely yes, without even a doubt and a thought in mind.
Now, did you try to expand this culture over there?
It's all, so I've always looked at my my cooking as Cajun food, Creole food, Southern food. It's the foundation of almost everything that I cook. It has some play in almost everything that I cook. And that could be a very small part, or it could be a very big part, but it's something that I've taken from what I've learned here throughout, all my childhood and adolescence, and then growing up and really studying Cajun food. So, yeah, I would say that I've kind of always felt that, I had a big flag. I'm holding a big flag, and that is, if not Southerner, South Louisiana, and trying to, have like-minded conversations with folks who may know nothing about our culture or our food, and kind of bring them in, maybe slowly, maybe very rapidly, by doing like a crawfish boil, right?
Right.
I remember in Napa, so apparently the Russian River Valley, and I don't know if this is still true, but at one time it did hold true, that the Russian River Valley was the United States' second largest producer of crawfish in the United States. Obviously, Louisiana being number one. And the Russian River Valley's crawfish look very similar, except they live in much more they live in more moving water and rivers, and so like they have their tails kind of fins on the outside. They're spiky. They're almost sharp. They're almost like difficult to peel because it's not as flat as like a crawfish tail the sides were, because they need that extra, right, like leverage to move in snow and water. So, and I remember going up to Russian River and buying like 20 pounds of crawfish for something like $1,000, right? Like, I mean, they're just not as abundant, and I wanted them live. And boiling crawfish in Napa Valley was only like 20 pounds. Doing it on my stovetop in Napa Valley, and just in introducing a lot of the people that I worked with to something that I'd grown up doing. In fact, boiling crawfish was my first job here right down the street on Canal.
Where was that?
Express Seafood.
Express, yeah.
With Ronnie SJ.
Was that Heads and Tails?
Heads and Tails Catering. Yeah, okay. So they had Heads and Tails Catering and Express Seafood, and yeah.
So, wait, is that where Boogadoo is now? That's where Boogadoo is now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So that was your first
cooking job.
Getting paid to cook.
Yeah. Pelche Park, painting bathrooms and cutting grass was the first job.
I bet you wiped off some dirty words off of those bathrooms.
Dude, I mean, a lot of firsts for me in that job.
Improving your vocabulary.
Yeah. After that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this whole cooking thing at 16 years old. And so I think that's when I started working for Ronnie. I forget his partner's name at the time with Heads and Tails. Eric, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of it, but yeah. I don't remember his last name.
But yeah, man, I talked about that a lot because, you know, people outside of Louisiana and its proximities of, you know, Eastern Texas or Western Mississippi and also Southern Arkansas, like outside of that, like there's a big kind of, it's almost like you got to demystify crawfish or boiling crawfish or something like that. And people, you know, don't typically boil 40 pounds of something or cook 40 pounds of something at a time and dump it on the table. There's places like Maine, which are lobsters and crab in the Chesapeake Bay, even though most of their crab come from Louisiana, you know, or even like smoked salmon out in Washington, where they'll smoke salmon fresh and they'll actually have like smoked salmon parties and kind of potluck kind of styles, and they're eating salmon straight off the scale, fresh out the smoker. And, you know, there's certain things like that, but crawfish seem to be one of those things. So it's like, you know, I learned to boil 500 pounds of crawfish at a time. And so boiling 40 pounds of crawfish seems like, you know, it's just fun for me.
Right.
But people oftentimes don't really grasp that. It's a really unique thing, is I guess my point, that maybe we take for granted or don't even realize is as unique as it is now.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
I don't ever think about it. I don't ever really just need it or want it. You know, it's lost the special appeal for me. I think just because we're so close to it and just get so much of it.
Yeah.
You know,
that certainly happens. But I tell you what, it has been amazing to see. I remember, and y'all probably remember this too. We were all around the same age. Growing up, I can remember seeing signs on the side of the road that were like a Chaffly basin crawfish or wild crawfish.
Spillway crawfish.
Yeah. I don't see that anymore. I don't know of anybody I can even buy spillway crawfish from.
I think those farms, you know, the rice field crawfish are just so plentiful. And look, dude, you know, people are getting lazier the older we get. You know, they're not going out there and farming them. And, you know, as soon as you have a bad year, they're not going to set the traps and all of this other stuff. But that was Dad's whole thing. I mean, he would go all over creation looking for spillway crawfish. He didn't want the rice field crawfish. So it didn't taste the same.
It's you know, it's pretty wild when I think about it, because when we think about, like, well, first of all, you can get Louisiana crawfish anywhere in the country now. Next day air, right? Like, the popularity has grown, which probably is the reason why rice bound crawfish have become so popular to farm, right? Because the demand is so high for crawfish in general, of course. But I always think it's interesting, like when we think about farm-raised fish or farm-raised meat or so on and so forth, not so much farm-raised meat for the larger public, but farm-raised fish, let's take. like there's a shadow, there's a you know, a negativity attached to farm raised fish, whether that be salmon or tilapia or deep water fish like cobia or other ones they farm in large aquaculture things. But in crawfish, we seem to be totally fine with it. Now maybe there's just not the discrepancy of like health benefits and so on associated with that. But similar to alligator farming and wild alligators, like there's still something I feel like really unique. I can remember, so I grew up in Labadyville. Me and my friend Gene Blanchard, who's a sugarcane farmer and grew up a sugarcane farmer, now lives in Thibodaux. But we both lived in Labadyville growing up till we were 13. And we would go out after school from Edie White, come back to Labadyville, go after school and bet. Now, and I don't remember where we were, but a lot of Assumption parishes has hard bottom swamps, blackwater, cypress swamps, and so on that you can walk, right? You go in South Terrebonne or South Lafourche, you ain't walking the water, right? But I don't know if it's still like this at this time, but we would go set out like 3 or 4 crawfish traps as high schoolers, come back the next day after, let them soak for 24 hours, 36 hours, and then pull traps. And then we might have 20 pounds, we might have 30 pounds or whatever, and we'd have our dads cook them, whatever. And like that seemed like, I don't know. I wish my sons, who I don't know if they will even live in Louisiana as they grow up, hopefully one day we'll find another home here. But will they ever get those opportunities, not just to do that, but things like that, you know, like when they get of age? Because the way I see it, to your point, things are becoming farmed. There's nothing wrong with alligator farming and crawfish farming. Of course, it's lowered the price of crawfish for well, I shouldn't say that. It has not lowered the price of crawfish.
Because you've been sending it all to Napa Valley.
Yeah, that's right. So anyways, man, it's I find the whole, from a socioeconomic point of view, and just like the evolution of business and our culture and the fisheries and what people are doing and how they make money, like I love following it. And I'm not saying that one's good or one's bad or one's better than the other, but I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting as I'm 40 years old, and a lot of times being away from Louisiana has given me a perspective, because I don't see everything with everyday eyes, right? Like you've kind of said. So I get to come back and say, like, you know, where's this or where's that, or why doesn't this restaurant? Why is it all chain restaurants now? Why is it all this and that? So I don't know. I follow that pretty closely. I like it. It's pretty interesting to me.
So the last time we were all together was like 3 years ago. You had filmed the duck camp dinners. I think that was episode 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Episode 1, you came, stopped in the market, got your meats and stuff for the camp. Do y'all remember that we were wearing masks?
I'm reminded of it every time that episode plays. Like, take the mask off.
We were wearing masks. It looks so weird to see now. Like, if you watch it now, it's just like, what was going on? I can't believe it.
The world done flipped upside down.
I cannot believe it.
A couple of years.
Twilight Zone, man. Those years. I think about the same thing. I'm like, where we are now, especially in Florida, when we lived in Texas before. Coming out of that, you're like, what actually just happened?
Yeah.
Like, I get that we were told. What really happened?
That's
there?
so weird. So, talk about the duck camp dinners endeavors. How did this start? Whose ideas was this, and how did this come to be?
Yeah, I mean, it was my idea, but never wasn't intended to turn the way that it turned. You know, when I was first thinking about it, I was deep in kind of growing my social media and developing content in that way. And so I was like, man, it would be a great opportunity. It's kind of cool content if I just filmed what I'm cooking at the camp. I'd do it on my phone and whatever. And it could be a cool little series I can put out on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. As I started thinking about it, I was like, man, I don't know how to really do this, or whether it's on my phone, maybe I can hire somebody or whatever. And I don't know, the idea developed around a kind of snowball effect. I thought it was just going to be 4 to 6 minute on my phone cooking things. Then it became 6 minutes, 8 minutes types of longer stuff, because as we started diving into the things. Like, for example, I mean, we go. It's no big like all of us probably at every camp that we've gone to. We go fishing, or we set jug lines or trot lines or whatever that might be. Maybe we set crab traps or so on. We do things that are kind of like in between moments, whether we're hunting or fishing, just to kill time or just to have fun. And we go do that, and of course we'd catch some catfish and be like, all right, what are we going to do with these catfish? And well, we make something with them. And so now it became this like catch and cook, right? Or clean and cook or something like this. And then we're like, well, we have a lot of fun doing it. I think it's funny, and so let's just film everything. And that's why you just build this thing. But really, it's like, once we got to that point, I said to myself, well, I love this camp and I love the people at it. And I've always had this weird thing about forgetting, right? Forgetting things or getting dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, and just never having recollection of all the things that I cherish in my life, whether it be my family or these memories or friends or so on. And part of me was like, I feel like I just need to document what we do. And then that's how the larger kind of scope of the project, I was like, let's document what we do, because if at the very least what I get out of it is like memories for life that I can go back to visually, audio, and relive that, then awesome. Like, that's enough for me. Whatever happens from there, it was just cherry on top, because now I've documented it. And it changed and it evolved from there. But really, like, y'all were coming to Bourgeois at the meat market wasn't just about highlighting a local business. It was trying to be, and as we still try to be, as authentic as possible in what I've called the life cycle of the duck camp, through the food we eat and people we share it with. And if you notice, that first season is 6 episodes, and it starts at my parents' house and it ends at my parents' house, because that's the life cycle. I leave from a place, I pack, I get my coolers ready, I stop at Rouse's, I stop at Bourgeois, I get what I need for the camp, because I know I'm going to be gone for 3 to 5 days, and then I come back, and whatever we've hunted, caught, catch, cook, clean, I cook at my parents' house when we come in. And that's the life cycle. It's leaving from a place, getting what you need to make that place, exceptional, or what you want out of it, and then coming back and sharing all the fruits of the land, the fruits of your labor, with people that weren't there, right? And we see that all the time through the cycle of going to Fouchon and going speckled trout fishing, right? Like, we go, we stop and get whatever we need for whether it's Southern Belle sandwiches, don't even know if those are made anymore, or a boudin burrito, or whatever it is, and then we come back home. Shoot, what are we doing with all the speckled trout? Well, let me give it to my neighbor. Maybe I'll trade that speckled trout for some duck or squirrel meat or hog or whatever. And that's how I grow. So it's really it's highlighting that life cycle of leaving a place, experiencing this new place, and coming back and sharing whatever you did with people that weren't there. And I thought that was a good way to go. And it's always been about like truly, authentically showing as best we can what we're about in South Louisiana. And it had to be, in my opinion, beyond the kill, even beyond the cook. It needed to show other people that weren't like me, like y'all.
Because that's the real culture.
Yeah.
It's not the hunt. You hunt all over the world. In many places the exact same ways. You fish for the most part the same ways. You hunt the same ways. But it's the prep before and what happens after that could be totally different.
Well, and like the Meteor show, I love it. But it all seems so unrealistic to me. They're just appearing in all these exotic locations where I'm used to growing up doing exactly what Chef Jean-Paul was talking about is you're doing all these things leading up to it. You're going to the camp. It's about spending time with family and friends. And then you come home. Like, it's just very different. And I love that it does give a piece of our culture. And I think it's something that a lot of people from other places may or may not understand, similar to your crawfish analogy, where that's not how people do things in other places. Yeah. So I think it's awesome that you're sharing it, and I think it's a great show. But
well, thank you. Look, I just filmed season 4 in Texas. It started in Louisiana. Similar idea, right? We start in Louisiana. We do some stuff. I oh man, I'm blanking on the air. But anyways, we do some stuff in Louisiana, and then we leave to go to Texas, and we spend about 6 episodes in Texas. And the difficult thing about Texas, Texas is known for its hunting and fishing culture. Big wildlife area, big wildlife place. You know, as Louisianans being neighboring states, we share a lot in common when it comes to share a coast. We share a border. We share a lot of culture. I mean, you go to Houston, it feels like there's just as many Louisianans. Half the people are from Louisiana. And what I've noticed there is that a lot of people hunt from home. They get in their truck from there, you know. And it's hard to find camps, whether that's hunting camps, duck camps, or fishing camps, whatever. It's just not as part of their culture as it does to ours. Like, we seem in Louisiana have much more of a density of people, of like, whether it's a floating camp like we have in Bayou Black, or something out in Grand Isle, or something in Lake Verret, whatever it is. We seem to have a density of people with these second homes or second places that we can go and really be out into this more natural world. Now, it's not hiking the backcountry in Montana a lot of times, but it can get pretty rural. Whether you're going 2 hours from a boat launch in a boat, you know, there's a lot of people listening right now say, yeah, we go an hour, 2 hours to get to where we're going on our houseboat, or our little floating camp that's run by a generator and water and rainwater. So, and I just think that was something that I did not know that we were so unique in. Because you go in most places in the United States, like, there's not, even in the densest hardcore hunting cultures of whether it's Western backcountry or whether it's Texas, they just, you know, it's just a different way to do it. And I love that way, but there seems to be something lost by not getting to this central located place that we're all coming to wherever we're from, and then experiencing that place together. It's just a different dynamic that I think is so unique and special, not just in South Louisiana, but the density of it in South Louisiana is definitely.
Maybe that's what makes us different or weird or more wild. South Louisiana folks, Cajun folks, is because we've been to the camp. And we've
seen our daddies do some things that we shouldn't have seen them do.
We've had these experiences that other people, they really can't understand. They don't understand the uniqueness and the special nature of it. You know, kind of the coming of age through a camp. You know, having access to that and being at a place where, you know, you see the adults finally relax and everything's good. Like, we're all at the camp, cut loose, be bad, get lost, get hurt, whatever. It's a lot different than like you said, your base is your house in the city. It's just totally different, you know?
Yeah.
And to add to that, like, when we go to the camp, I would say the hunting or fishing might even be like third on the list of what I'm excited about doing. You know?
Yeah, and you're 100%. I agree with both of you. And Shane, you bring up a good point that I've never really thought about, that coming of age of being at a camp, whether you're, you know, when you're first able to go, you know, whether it's 5 years old or 9 years old, whenever your time of your memory allows you, there certainly is, you know, and not everything is bad or wild. Of course, some things are. But you know, just seeing your dad and your dad's friends, or your mom or your mom's, whoever's at the camp, man or woman, but to relax and kind of have fun and be with their friends, and you be a part of that finally, right? So I can remember going to camps as a little boy. I remember my dad going by himself and doing his things, whether it's fishing camps or duck camps or deer camps or whatever, but then finally getting to go and be a part of that, feeling like one of the guys and growing through that. It's a really, really interesting point that you proposed there.
And it's where you build your credibility with the grown-ups, right? Like, first, yes, you're allowed to go, but you're not allowed to go walk to the end of the dock. And then next year, you're allowed to walk to the end of the dock. And then the next year, you're allowed to stay up as late as you want. You can catch crab. You could dip net crabs till 3 a.m. if you want. Then the next year, maybe you're allowed to take a pirogue out and go until they can't see you, you know? So I think you feel that you're growing up, you know, more to me, more than anywhere else. You feel like, all right, they trust me. I'm doing something right, and and it never stops.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I want to raise my kids, same way. Like I want to put them in those places where you just see, what do you want to do, and let's see if I think you should or not.
Yeah, that's really interesting as a just a new dad of 3 years at this point, and just having a newborn that's 6 months. I think about those situations, like you just said, a lot. Now, my kids aren't to that age to even be at the camp with me, right? But like, what does that look like in my life 5 years from now? When Parrish, my oldest, is 8.
Yeah.
I'll also say it's interesting also hearing other people from around the world really comment on duck camp dinners, because a lot of the comments will be, me and my friends or me and my sons go every year fly fishing in this area, and it reminds me of y'all's camp. It's not floating. We pitch tents,
Right.
but we have 5 days together in this place where we're catching salmon or catching trout. We're cooking in the campfire, sleeping in tents, persevering through the weather or the cold or the bugs or whatever. And it's this time, and you hear so many people from around the world that's never experienced a Cajun culture or Cajun food. They only maybe know, what they see on TV or just duck camp dinners, but they see themselves in our group of friends because they can really, even just in that very different way. And I also, that's even being able to do that once a year with your friends or family or your dad or your brothers or whatever, I feel like is like one's better than nothing. Like, get out there.
Yeah.
It's part of what we were discussing earlier is like, I'm bringing my son and traveling by myself right now to different places because I want him to experience being away from what he's used to. I want to experience being away from what I'm used to. I think a large part of success in life is just being comfortable with being uncomfortable and trying to learn and navigate your way through that discomfort is going to kind of grow you into a different man, a different woman, a different human. And anyways, a lot of the camp happens in that discomfort. The cold of a duck blind when it's raining, like, gosh, I should have stayed in bed. But persevering through that is good. Or just like going frogging right now in the swamps, or especially in July and August, is going, just covered in bugs, covered in this, like, am I really out here for a freaking reptile, that I'm going to fry up? Yeah. Right. Because it's more than that.
It is more than that.
It's more than that.
Do you, in your opinion, did it, so the filming at the camp, you've done this for a long time, just going to the camp and doing the cooking and having the camaraderie and stuff. Do you feel like the filming or sort of turning some of the experience into a production has taken away anything?
A great question.
I would feel like absolutely it has to, but where's the trade-off, and how do you keep it to where, do you actually black out and kind of forget that it's happening, or do you feel that everyone kind of knows it's, hey, we're here, we're filming, like we're here to film, do your film stuff,
Yeah, for the most part, it is unscathed by the reality that it's filmed. Now, I say that in the first season, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what it would turn out to be. Again, we started saying it was going to be 6 to 8 minute episodes. It turned into 12 to 20 minute episodes and turned into 6 of them. We just had so much stuff, and in that season, everybody was like, had their mics on. They're mic'd up for 14 hours a day, and we just didn't know what was going to happen. So there was a little bit of just an unknowing freedom in that season. Then once we all saw it, we were like, oh, like this is how it cuts. This is what it might look like. And so the second season was almost a, like, oh, wait, now we're getting filmed. I need to make sure, like, I'm not smoking too many cigarettes on camera.
Right.
I don't want everybody to know that, I'm doing. Some of my friends, they're like, I don't care. Everybody knows I smoke, Yeah. But some don't. Some don't, And so there's that portion of it. Like, and then at season 3, it kind of was like, but so in the sense, like, we all know, we're all conscious of it, the mic you forget. You black out on the mic. You're like talking about whatever, and you're like, oh, shit. Like,
You're gonna have to cut
you're
that.
gonna have to cut that. We're gonna need to let anyways, and so I think about that all the time, even while I'm cooking, because, you know, if I'm going through a process, like, I want this show to be family friendly. One of the things that I would love to see is people, and I know this happens somewhat, I want to see, like, less people come to the couch or living room and all on their single devices, whether that's a TV and 2 phones or a tablet. Instead, come around one tablet or one TV and watch this show together. We're not perfect, and that's the point. Like, we're gonna cuss sometimes. We're gonna screw up sometimes, and that's the point.
What happens at the camp.
And
you learn. Yeah. That's how you learn to say those words, is at the camp. But you learn that that's the only place you could say them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so,
it's a good system.
There's a time and place for everything.
It is a system.
I heard some words at the camp this weekend.
So we try to be that, but for the most part, man, like, my friends pointed this out to me in season 3, because they want to know game plan. What time we need to show up to launch? What time you're gonna be there and whatever. And one of my friends, Jesse Lagarde, says, Jean-Paul, you don't even know what you're cooking. And I thought about it. I was like, you're right. I don't know what I'm cooking.
That's how it usually is. Yeah.
That's the point. So my thing is, like, I go to the grocery store and I make sure I have butter, I have oil, I have vinegar, I have lemons, I got Trinity, I got smoked sausage, I got boudin, I got things that I can cook. So if I want to catch a catfish and stuff it with boudin and cook it on the grill, then I can do that. Right? I don't know if I'm going to do that. So I don't know if I'm going to cook catfish, but I know I got boudin, I know I got Trinity, I know I got whatever. So that's certainly part. So to your question, like, so much of it, like, for the most part, the only thing that we really know is who we're going to be with and where we're going to be, and somewhat of an idea of what we're going to do in terms of, like, all right, we're going to duck hunt on Saturday morning, we're going to go shoot a hog at night in the evening. But that could certainly change. You know, like, we just truly try to leave it fluid to give room for that.
And it's hunting, so you might not shoot whatever you're going hunting for.
Which is another.
And now you're putting out jug lines because you're hungry.
Oh, exactly. And that's another part of the show, is, like, talking about Meat Eater, right, is what you brought up. One of the things, you know, I think that really they did well, especially early on, is show the failures.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
You know, and, you know, show the misses, because that really, there's such a pushback against traditional hunting media right now. You know, people are wise to what it is to go out there now, and people want to see, like, that's why, I mean, you see YouTube so popular with just jump cuts. Like, it doesn't need to be, they just want to see what's really happening. They don't care about the production value of the jump cuts or your audio or GoPros or whatever. You can film whatever you want, just show me what's real. And I think that's a huge, I mean, again, that the reason why we created Duck Ham, or the premise around creating Duck Ham Dinners, that was a large influence, was saying, what don't we want to be, right? Like, we don't want to be like every other hunting show. So what does that look like? It means showing more than just hunting, showing the crime, but also showing the failures and the mess ups and the falls in the water a couple times this season. Like, and it's kind of like, I got to look at my friend who fell in the water out of Cocodrie.
You can say his name.
He'll get his time. He'll get his time. But I'm like, it happened.
Yeah.
You know, we got to show it. Like, like, that's not on me that it happened. Like, it happened. So
we were going to Uncle John's. I think you were there, Shane. We were going rabbit hunting. It was me, you, Dad, and Benson. And everybody's in the boat. Benson's pushing off, winds up in the water. It's 35 degrees. We haul him back into the boat. Dad looks at him and goes, "You can be cold this morning," and then took off. And we went hunting.
Sorry, Benson. I don't know you, but sorry, bro.
That's
like,
the camp.
Yeah.
Well, so Benson is our cousin that moved to Arkansas 5 years ago.
That's a good guess.
Maybe 5 years ago. And the camp is where we see Benson. You know, we make a camp trip once a year, so we do it like a guys trip that's like on the books. The wives are okay with it. We do 2-3 days at the camp in Mississippi, and it's like the one time of year, like, be there, like, you got to be there. And this year our cousin Vincent got to make it, so that's one of those special places. That's one of the things now that makes that special. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah. That's opening day for us, and I'm going to miss it for the first time in a long time. Opening day this
Duck?
year. Yeah.
Duck.
If it stays, which they haven't, I don't think they've signed and made into, formally said, but right now it's looking like it'll open up on the 8th, unless there's a coastal section that opens up. Then it might be, a little later. But as of the 8th, if it stays on the 8th, please, duck gods in Louisiana, state people, whoever make these.
Hey, if you're not there, the show must go on.
We never film on opening day either.
See what happened?
Opening day
is that a ritual? That's going to be a rule?
Yeah, opening day is for
business only.
The crew. You know? But I won't be there unless they change the thing, which I'm hoping they do. Please do. So yeah, it's a fun time.
Duck hunting, fishing. Do you do any deer hunting?
I like to deer hunt. In fact, I've kind of talked about, I have a few rifles. I like the rifles that I have to hunt. I don't collect rifles. I collect shotguns for the most part. I do like to deer hunt, but I don't mind also sitting in a box stand 100 yards from a feeder and shooting a quality doe for meat. I often say that now trust me, if a beautiful 8-point came out or whatever, which I've never shot. I've probably shot only 4 bucks in my life. Mm-hmm. I like to think about once I get that freezer wrapped, cryovac, labeled, and I have everything in its place, that's my trophy cabinet. That's kind of so I don't necessarily put a big emphasis on any type of trophy hunting. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to kill anything if I can't put it in the freezer. I don't need to go. I don't know if you eat mountain sheep, that people spend $200,000 to go hunt. But if I can't eat it,
for that much, you better believe I'll be eating it.
Something getting eaten.
I eat Jack Crevel. So.
So I do deer hunt, although I don't. It's one of those things where I'll go once or twice a year, make sure that I'm putting something in the cooler. Mm-hmm. But I'm always open to invites to go shoot a big buck. I just
come cook for us at the camp.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is that until this year, I've never owned a mud boat. I've never owned property. I've never owned a camp. I don't own anything to hunt except for hunting clothes and guns and ammunition.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. My contribution has always been food. Same as my dad. My dad is not an expert hunter, mm-hmm. right? At all. But man can cook. And so he's always been the cook at camps. And that's always been my contribution to camp, which I firmly believe that when you go to any camp, you got to pull your weight. You got to bring something to the table, whether it's washing dishes, cleaning fish, mm-hmm. or cooking or whatever it is. Maybe you're a great duck caller, and that's your contribution. To all the people listening, if you don't feel like you have a contribution to camp, you're probably not going to get invited back. All the people that we hunt with are hands-on kind of guys, and I think that means a lot to especially camp owners who are fronting the bill for a lease or fronting the bill for a camp or maintenance or so on. Is come getting ready to do work and have a contribution.
Yeah, same thing getting on someone's boat.
Absolutely,
freaking grab the dock lines, do everything you can to let that guy stay at the wheel. Mm-hmm.
Go pay for the ice at the at the marina. Whatever. So.
All right, give us a couple. I know you say you kind of fly by day on what you're gonna cook at the camp, but do you have any staples that's everyone requests that dude, you got to do that again?
No, man, not really. I do. I always have rice and I always have pasta with me because I feel if it's a bad hunt or a bad fishing trip, even if we just kill 4 ducks or catch 5 fish or 4, whatever it is, I can feed a large group of people by introducing rice and pasta. And I can do that in a really good and thoughtful and tasty way. Jambalaya, paella, its bones, the foundation of that dish is all through, taking a grain like a pasta or a rice, in this case for jambalaya, and using the meat that you have to make a meal and spreading that out and feeding a group of people, right? It's a one-pot meal type of situation. So, those are things I always have with me that I know that, sometimes you might hear us in the show be like, well, that's going to be a long, long gravy, because it's kind of like you need that one duck to break down. It's like, that's a long gravy, And that's our way of saying, like, we don't have much to eat. We better make something out of it, There's the duck à l'orange dish that we did early on that, I've been making in different iterations for almost all my life, not just with duck, but with everything. And then there's the duck with apples and bourbon, which I've kind of named Dad's Duck Dinner, which I've published in a couple of different publications. We've cooked it on camera. It's been around. Those are two dishes that I often get they'll get people that like duck, but they can go without it. They eat it because they kill it, and that's about it. There's no really want for it. But those are two dishes where people are like, you know what? That I can eat. That's the best duck dish I ever had. How did you do that?
Right.
That's cool. So those tend to kind of break through to some folks.
Your son is 6 months?
I have one 6 months. His name's Duke Pierre Bourgeois, and then Parrish is my 3-year-old.
Parrish and Duke.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get them on the camera soon?
I don't know how long I'm gonna be. As far as Duck Camp Dinners goes, I don't know how many seasons I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not planning on filming a season 5 this year. But they certainly will be on camera. They already are kind of on my, whether I like it or not. I got, Parrish maybe yelling in the background of a video or whatever, those types of things. But it's I really love Duck Camp Dinners. It started as a passion project of mine. It's developed into, somewhat of a business. It's not, I can't make my living on making that show, but it's fun. I love it. It has a travel component. I can kind of shine a light on different aspects of our culture or other people's cultures or ways of life through it. I love that type of storytelling. So hopefully one day we can continue it on, and those boys can join me on episodes, and I'd love for it to evolve in that way. It's interesting because I'm relaunching my YouTube channel this month, and it's basically going to be all my favorite cooks, hunts, back behind the scenes moments, repackaged and put on this YouTube channel. But
it'll be more your personal,
it'll be mine. It's actually called the page is going to be called Stir the Pot Entertainment.
Okay.
Because it's what I didn't want it to be exactly. I don't want it to be exactly about me. I want it to be about the projects I do, but also travel and food and cooking and gear reviews. And so I didn't want to name it Duck Camp Dinners. I didn't want to name it just Jean-Paul Bourgeois. I think other people can use it as a platform. We'll see. And we'll see how it grows or not. But then we'll put Duck Camp Dinners Season 4 on that channel, which will be out in September, October. And I'm going to see how it goes, man. And the hard part is I have to raise money to make the show. And that means, it's a lot of it's asking a lot of money from people, right? It's not an easy thing to do. It's not something I love to do. I love working with my partners, but I do love the idea of maybe it paying for itself. Sure. Right? Getting to a point where I can monetize enough to where I don't have to depend on sponsors to make it. And that's where I really find myself this season is I just don't have it in me to go ask for 25 grand, 50 grand. That's what the ask is.
Right.
And that's a lot of money for people. And I feel like I've gotten to this point right now with the help of a lot of great brands and people. And not saying I'll never work with other brands, but they've done their part. You know what I mean? They've gotten me to this place where I'm like, okay, I need to take that next step and try to get it on my own platforms. If I want this to continue to be sustainable, it can't be through getting money from other people to make it. Yeah. I have to develop it even to a more viable business. And so we'll see how it goes. Season 4 will be out on the Stir the Pot YouTube channel. Obviously, I'll message that in different ways, especially as we get closer throughout the year. But we'll see how that develops, and that'll determine a lot of like the future of duck camp dinners.
Who's some of your influences, not on the cooking side, but on the, I guess on the more the business side, kind of the route you're going and pushing the YouTube and creating the content? Do you have anyone that you really eyes on?
Man, that's a great question. I was just having a conversation with the folks at Buckmasters last week. And they've been making Buckmasters for 39 years.
Yeah, I remember being a kid watching that on Sundays. 39
years and still making Buckmasters. Now, like, that's a completely different business model than what YouTube is right now. There's not a lot of people in YouTube doing what I want to do with my channel. And that's reflective of duck camp dinners being not like what a lot of people are doing in duck hunting or hunting content. Mm-hmm. I say that like I'm working with some great folks in Pennsylvania that are helping me basically strategize my YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. The length of video, how long, different thumbnails and hooks and so on and so forth. That's been very helpful just to get. They've grown channels and so on and so forth, and that's been very helpful to get their insights into, because we have 50 terabytes of footage, right? That right now is just made into duck camp dinners, and there's so much more that we can do with it. So that's what we're trying to do with that. But they've suggested this, and this is kind of part of my jump cut kind of thought into YouTube. But they said, go look at this channel called Outdoor Boys. Right?
I watch it with my kids all the time.
Mm-hmm. And the guy has 14 million subscribers to it. And he is simply, a couple tripods, GoPros. He's not doing, he's
right. Not a big production crew.
Not a big production crew. He's building a shelter out in Alaska. He's bringing some food to cook. He's documenting what he's doing. Mm-hmm. It's jump cut. And although like, I'm never like, honestly, like, come on, like, I am not going out and putting myself through that. Like, I'm not going in the marsh and hanging out.
Dig a nest in a cypress tree.
Yeah.
This ain't Naked and Afraid.
No, I'm not. So that's not me. But I think it's a really interesting kind of, you just see that people are really gravitating towards just show me real.
Yeah, what I like about it, and I have several shows that I like to watch. I watch a lot of spearfishing shows. I like to watch like guys from Australia, people on the coast that kind of do like, they'll camp on the beach, go fish for dinner, come back, cook it, that type of stuff. Kind of like just roughing it and like overlanding and pulling their little tiny boat with their Jeep to some island and just dumping it in the water somewhere. But it's like, I don't need to, those types of shows, same with Outdoor Boys, I don't need to turn on and watch it as an episode. Like, I need to watch it from start to finish. On Sunday morning when I walk through the living room, I just put it on. And it's just on now. So you pass through the living room, sit down, feed the baby, catch a couple cool clips, and then walk around. I like it like that, and I think it's like it's just easy going. You don't feel like you're gonna miss something, but it's just good. That's kind of what I want my kids to watch. I'd rather them watching that than the other crap that's on there. I'd rather watch them see the boys playing in the river, stuff like that.
And it's turned out only over a couple of weeks to be that for my son Parrish, right? Because we don't watch a lot of TV. I don't get to watch a lot of TV, period. Right? That's one of the things about YouTube is like, shit, man, like I'm kind of unplugged from it. I don't know exactly what's
out there.
Out there because I don't get to really watch and discover and so on and so forth. But certainly I feel like he does a good job of, again, like bringing his kids and doing things like that. Man, there was something I wanted to say and I forgot. But we'll get to it, I'm sure.
It's super interesting too because he is going all over the world. He's not in the same spot. You're not seeing the same house that he's always at or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I remember this is my thing though, Shane. Like think about this. Both his dads, right? Bo, your dad?
What about
you have children?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
How many children you have?
4.
Four. Golly.
Yeah, 8, 7, 5, and 2.
How about
almost
gluttony?
2.
glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Anyways, I often like think about it, I was like, where do these people have time to do this? And obviously he has kids with him, you know, but some of other influencers, and I think it's important to say, it's like seasons in life, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take Justin Chasson, for example, stale cracker, right? Started as a trooper, had kids early. I think his oldest kid's in college. His youngest is, I think, in high school right now. He's at a season in his life where he can do what he's doing right now. He's basically retired from the troopers, I think. Don't quote me on that. But he's at a season in life where maybe, like some people, like myself, chose a different route. And now I have, you know, we're only a year or two apart. Mm-hmm. But now I have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Yeah.
And I think back when I don't have any kids, I was like, well, I thought I was busy back then. Like now, like I don't even, and so I think about creating this content. I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? Like I want to be a part of my child's life, right? Mm-hmm. And if I go, now I live pretty close to the beach, so it's a bad example, but you know, even just going for a day and spending and camping out at night, it's like, am I really going to camp out at night on the beach to create this piece of content that I think is going to get 20,000 views, 1 million views? Does it even matter at that point? Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, and I'm going to say, all right, I'm not going to be here for breakfast. I'm not going to be to help out going to Mother's Day out or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know. I think about, I have all these great ideas, but I'm like, when am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to do that?
Look, man, you know already, but time flies. You know, in 5 or 10 years, those kids will be included in all of that stuff, you know, because I mean, look, that's what the camp is, and it's what it's about. It's spending time with family and friends, and
yeah,
they're still too little now, but who's to say what's going to happen in 10 years? It might be a whole different show, but
yeah,
but they can be there for it.
Sure.
Boy, you know what would be
that's
nice?
Even more special.
You know what would be real nice? To live at the camp.
I tried that. Actually, I spent like 2 years ago. My buddies. I didn't say tried. I didn't try, but it was just me at the floating camp for like 3 days. So I was in between jobs, and I like didn't want to go back to Texas for a little bit. And this was before my kids were born. Mm-hmm. I was like, Jay, let me just stay at the camp for a little bit. I was by myself. I'm like, this is kind of boring, man. There's nothing to do, dude. I'm like, there's no, you know, and I don't know. It's better with people,
for sure.
You know, so.
You talked about your dad a bit cooking. Do you have any dishes that were like directly passed down that you'll never get rid of from dad or from mom or from papa or something like that?
I have ideas of dishes.
Yeah.
You know,
or procedures or little small habits or anything like that.
You know, I didn't realize this as growing up, but my parents aren't picky eaters, but they're far more pickier than I am.
Okay. And
so, you know, growing up, I didn't perceive them as that, but as I come back and maybe I cook at home, you know, it's like, you're cooking that? What are you cooking? What are you cooking? Like, oh, you're doing it that way? And and to me, it's like, you know, I've taken things like rabbit sauce piquant, right? So a dish that we all know, whether it's rabbit or other. Of course, rabbit's it's pretty traditional to make into a sauce piquant. My dad used to make that a lot, right? Now, I don't know how he made it, but the memory of him making it and it being really good and that's what I always remember from being a child. I don't necessarily remember how things tasted, what they looked like, or how he did it. I remember people's expressions on their face and their gratitude and their smiles once they ate it, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a much different thing than understanding exactly the recipe. It's how these people felt once eating. I often say this about restaurants, like our job as a restaurant. So like if our job is I would say that same thing about y'all's job here. It's a hospitality driven job. It's welcoming people out the door. At the end of the day, yes, you need to create great smoked meats, world famous beef jerky. XYZ. Yes, you need to execute that on a high level. But in the end of the day, your kind of job is to make sure people leave happier than when they came in. Mm-hmm. If they can leave happier than when they came in, you've succeeded, right? And it's how I look at whether I'm running restaurants or whether I'm feeding people at a camp, or whether I'm making duck camp dinners. If those people are happier when they get off that couch or wherever they're at watching the show, if those people are happier and get a little lift, get a little life, get a little joy out of that episode, then I've done my job. I don't really care what happens. If that's the outcome, then raise my hand. I'm in for it all day. And that same thing is with hospitality-driven folks, with just feeding people. If you can leave that era, and my point to saying all that is I didn't realize that as a child, but that's what I saw over and over, not just in myself when I ate my parents' food. Mm-hmm. So I was happy. I mean, look at me. I got a full tummy. I'm a big boy. But also when like just random people, their friends, like would come over or whatever, we'd have these things. So I feel like that's what they pass down to me. It's not necessarily one dish or a thing. It's just how you hope for them to feel when they eat certain foods or your food.
Do you like to eat out?
I love to eat out. I love to eat out.
So since you're a chef, this is a fair question. If you taste something, I guess good or bad, do you give feedback at a restaurant?
It depends. It depends on how bad.
What if you just really you feel strongly about it? You ate this thing, you're really excited about it. It was a nicer high end meal. Mm-hmm. You ate it and it's just way like you can't believe how salty it is. Mm-hmm. Will you say something?
Yes.
Will you tell the waiter?
Yes, but and the way I'll usually kind of frame those conversations is not as a complaining customer, but as somebody who would want the feedback himself if I was in that person's position.
That's how I feel also.
Yeah, and if you just, if you do it, right, they're in the business of hospitality. They're there to, again, hopefully get you feeling good out the door, right? And so you can return the favor by saying, hey, I don't know what happened to this bowl of red beans, but for me, this is entirely too salty. You might want to go, might want to talk to the chef or whoever's back there and just check the batch or whatever. Or maybe, certain people have different preferences, obviously, and there's kind of reading between those lines. But I think if you approach those situations with hospitality and with kindness and generosity, and I think that's as somebody who's run multiple businesses around the United States, like that is the most valuable feedback. It's not, oh my gosh, this fish was so good.
Right, it's useless.
That's useless. If
makes
people,
you feel good though.
Yeah, it does. It does. And trust me,
if that's how you feel, tell everyone else that. You don't need to tell me.
Yeah.
Tell everyone else.
Now it's going to write a Google review and
go write a review. But if it's bad, tell me.
Yeah.
Bo, let's talk about the kitchen. He said he didn't even notice the kitchen last time he came here. But talk about the kitchen and like the hiring that we need done for the kitchen, and maybe he can give some good feedback being in that world.
I prefer not to. I think I'm ready to burn it down.
It's like that.
We have decided that we need to hire a chef that can not just cook, but come up with a menu, cook awesome play lunches, figure out how to order what they need, and apparently that's not so easy to find. I tried to do it myself, and it was problematic.
Yeah. Well,
it turns out turning recipes like that you cook at the camp for 10 people to 100 people is not as easy as it sounds.
Sure. You're right. Things often don't scale up or scale down. Mm-mm. I have recipes dating back 10, 15, 20 years that are all scaled to restaurant size, like 20 pounds of this, 5 cases of this. And you try to scale that down, it never comes out, right? Like you get the bones of it. So, yeah, look, man, the restaurant industry in general has had this issue. So when I started in New York, you still found jobs on Craigslist. And at the time, in New York, this was in 2009, New York restaurants would say New York experience required on the post.
Yeah.
Specifically, New York experience required. Some said it, some didn't. My first job in New York was one that didn't require it because I didn't have any New York experience, right? Now, you go into New York, LA, Miami, Chicago, the big restaurant scenes, New Orleans, the big restaurant scenes, like, they don't care what experience you have. If you can show up to work on time, work hard and be willing to learn, that's enough. And I think, one, that should have always been enough in a way. Mm-hmm. But two, it's shown how shallow the work pool is, especially when it comes to back of the house cooking operations, whether it's kitchens, whether the best restaurants in the country have the same issues y'all are having right here at Bourgeois Meat Market in terms of finding dependable workforce. And I don't know what the fix of that is. The only thing I have said to many restaurants, because I do some consulting as well, it's like they want to have something for everyone. I was like, you need to abandon that. Mm-hmm. You need to do, this is a good thing to learn from the Japanese. You need to do 1, 2, maybe 3 things exceptionally well, and make them repeatable, and find somebody that it doesn't require a large ordering list or a whole bunch of prep or even a bunch of employees to execute. And it could be as simple as just 1 plate lunch a day, or maybe it's just on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and just starting small and just doing one thing exceptionally well and be known for it. And if you can nail that, then move on to one more. Don't start with a 30 item menu, right? Because here's what you have happen. We have gotten away from cooking from scratch in restaurants largely. And I can speak to this specifically living in Florida where I live, where it's a big tourist destination. Most of those restaurants are buying things from US Foods, Cisco, Performance Food Groups, and what those companies, to their credit, they've recognized that these restaurants are having employee issues or having staffing issues. And so what they're making pot roast and gravy that's in a bag. And you know what? It's not bad.
Right.
But everybody's buying this same quote unquote pot roast and gravy.
It tastes like chili.
It tastes like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And we've as a lot of restaurants have responded to their staffing situations. Well, we need to make the menu easier. How do we do that? Well, we can't get rid of the 30 things we have on the menu. We have to buy them pre-made. And so I think that's a darn shame. And what I would love to see, and again, going back to the Japanese, they do this incredibly well, is they make it their life's craft and mission to create the best bowl of ramen that they can. And they may have 1, 2, maybe 3 styles of ramen or different broths that go with it. And they just own it. And they make a living doing it. And they put their kids through schools doing it and so on and so forth. And they have really mastered this idea of being exceptional at a small amount of things, executing it really well, and taking pride in that that's their craft. And so I think that's a wonderful way of life. And I mean, honestly, y'all can probably make y'all business on beef sticks and beef jerky alone. Y'all executed that and created that demand and done it so well, it gives you credibility to move on to other things and create other items that I'm sure some have failed, right? Some weren't great. It could have been, I don't know what that is, but it gives you credibility. And so if you start small, do it really well, and better execute that one thing. Maybe it's just everybody in Thibodaux and Gray and Homa know to come to Bourgeois on Wednesday for rabbit sauce pecan. And that's what you spend 2 days before, making sure it's prepped. So when the time comes on Wednesdays, it's hot, it's ready to go. You can scoop and serve. You got to line out the door because they know on every Wednesday that's the best rabbit sauce pecan in Louisiana. that's your goal. And then if you can build from there, and then you can, then there's somebody like a chef or somebody that's run restaurants or whatever. They're like, okay, like there's a demand here. Then there's some like creative kind of spirit where I can now on Thursdays do shrimp stew with whatever, you know. I don't know. I don't know if that's good advice or bad advice, but I know if I was opening any type food truck, brick and mortar, whatever, I would start with making sure that I do that one or two things exceptionally well, be known for it, gives you credibility, then you can start spreading your wings without taking on too much.
I like it.
I think it's great advice.
That's really great. What do we owe you for that?
got me some airtime. We're free.
That was great.
And look, like y'all have been.
And it's like we know that. We do know that, but I guess we forget to do that.
I mean, my goal was to come up with 5 things that we could cook as good as we can. The problem is I'm not willing to take shortcuts, and you can only cook. I mean, once you put, just let's take the hamburger steaks, okay? We're cooking in Magnolites, and if you try to brown 100 hamburger steaks 6 at a time, now lunch is over, and you haven't browned them yet.
Yeah.
So we started trying to do that the day before, but I like the stuff at the bottom after they're browned to put your onions in.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the right way.
But the problem is now to cook down onions in a Magnolite for 100 hamburger steaks, that's also going to take you another 12 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of those things that early on in culinary school, and I hear on the Magnolites, bro. But early on in culinary school, the thing is, make sure you have the right equipment for the job. And if you're cooking that much, you need to get a roaster. You know, you need to get a big square roaster that you can do 20 hamburger steaks at a time. And another thing, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, to that point, you could get a flat top griddle, do the same thing, and deglaze that griddle.
We tried that too, actually, because there's 6 burners and then there's a 24-inch griddle on the side.
And didn't get the same
It worked
result.
okay. No,
Yeah.
It worked okay.
But yeah, I get the grimace, the fond, as the French would say, on the bottom of the pan. That's what's making that sauce. That's what's making it so flavorful. I get that. But when you're trying to scale up to 100 portions, that's a completely.
And here's a great question. How do we compete when we cook from scratch and we take the time and we're actually browning stuff and we're actually cooking down onions? How do we compete with the gas station plate lunch that throws a big pile of stuff in a oven for an hour, and then that's the plate lunch, and it's $3 cheaper, and everyone's irate because our plate lunch is $13 instead of $10.
Well, you can't please everyone.
Right.
And you never will, no matter if it's $10 or $13 or gas station or Bourgeois. Like, first of all, I mean, how much is the beef jerky a pound now?
$30.
So ain't nobody coming to Bourgeois expecting not to spend
Right.
a little money, right? First of all.
You'd be surprised.
Well, I mean, look, there's always going to be those folks. But it goes back to my previous comment is don't let it be a cash cow right away. Don't look to be like that's where you're aspiring to be, a cash cow. Just do it extraordinarily well. Have a simple marketing messaging plan. You could put 100 ad dollars against Instagram and Facebook every Monday for a Wednesday thing. Put $100, have a great photo. That'll get to people all around this area that can drive here. You pinpoint it. And so again, I don't think you approach it from this this needs to be a cash cow from day one. We need to please everyone. Just make the best damn hamburger steaks every Wednesday. Let it grow organically. Charge what you need to charge for it because you're Bourgeois' damn meat market, and you got the best beef, best protein around, and it's not going to be gas station food, and you shouldn't be, and you shouldn't message it that way. You're not comparing. You shouldn't compare The only way you don't get others to compare yourself to the Chevron down the street is if you don't. You know what I mean? So, and you just lean in. We say that all the time into duck camp dinners. It's like, it's freaking pouring down rain for the next 48 hours. And we say, well, let's lean into it. Mm-hmm. Let's get, I mean, if our shit gets drenched and we have to pay for new cameras and lenses because it does, like, that's what's happening. Right? Like, let's lean into that. And I think, again, we just, as a society in general, we have such an inclination to say we can't have that bad Google or Yelp review. We need to please everyone else. We need to give that discount. And I think that the tide is changing. The tide is changing into people understanding that Montana Knife Company, a set of 3 knives I think are $1,200. Made in America, well done. Really nice knives, and you're seeing enough demand for those types of things to like make their business work. Mm-hmm. And it started with one knife, doing it well. That was $110 for an everyday carry, probably. So it's just I feel like y'all have y'all cash cow, right? I feel like the cash cow is the meat market and or whatever. I say cash cow. Like, that's your business. Mm-hmm. Your business is not being a restaurant. So just lean into making one thing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And having that ready to go. Sell your 100 pieces and get ready for that. In fact, the best barbecue restaurant voted by Texas Monthly and Daniel Vaughn, Snow's Barbecue. I forget the exact town. Snow's Barbecue is open 1 day a week. And people line up at 4 a.m. to get there.
They probably need all the other days to prep.
And it's, your big Texas 3 brisket, sausage, ribs, probably some turkey in there. I've never been.
Mm-hmm. So what did you call it?
Snow's Barbecue. Tootsie, she's a janitor 5 days a week, a custodian that works at a school 5 days a week in their local town. Then on Saturday, she comes in. Or Friday night, she comes in and preps the barbecue. She has help, obviously. Saturday, they're open, and then they're closed the rest of the week. And so they've created a demand because they just are exceptional at what they do. But they're giving themselves the time and resources and grace to actually create this thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's just 1 day a week, and you have 3 plate lunches, to that point. And you're able to prep it, and it's manageable. You're not asking too much from your staff or yourself. You're executing on a high level. You're growing in demand. You've already got the customer base. I don't know. That's what I would do.
Excellent.
Great advice.
Now, in your opinion, what caliber of chef do we need?
Well, you need somebody that's plugged into the culture and the community here. You need somebody that has the same vision or like-minded vision as y'all, so what this wants to be, right? Like, it could be a po' boy shop, it could be a plate lunch, it could be whatever you want it to be, but just making sure y'all are aligned and collaborating and communicating about that. And most importantly, no matter, despite the age or the sex or the race or whatever, show up on time. Be willing to take instruction from, and collaborate with y'all or whoever that might be. But like, just be dependable. Like, in general, just like if we say we're gonna open, if you say that we can open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday through Friday, or whatever that is, like, we need to depend on you in that. Mm-hmm. But also, again, like, we don't talk enough about this in the restaurant industry. And I talk about it more so than I do now, in past, but like, I don't know what y'all pay here, but people need to be paid correctly. Mm-hmm. People need to be paid a wage that they can take pride in, that they can go home to their family and say, hey, I'm quitting this job to take this job. Mm-hmm. It needs to be a wage that is respectful and honorable. Now, maybe that's a growth plan type of thing. You start here, we grow to here. Let's see how it goes, because this is a new business and you're new to us, and it could be a month, could be 6 months. But, I truly believe I've been taken advantage of for years and years and years as a young cook, you know. And that's what helped grow me in a lot of ways. But now, like, I don't go anywhere. I don't leave my family for free. You know, like, because I have enough self-respect and dignity, not just for myself, but for them. And so, like, people say, well, what's your day rate? And I tell them my day rate. And I was like, that's what it costs for me to leave my family. You want me to come cook for you in California for 3 days? Here's what it costs. Because that's not just my time, that's my family's time. And I think that is translatable through every walk of life. Like, if you're going to come to work, just like working mothers, right? They have a choice. You even go to work and you pay somebody to raise your child, or you don't go to work and you save that money and you raise your child. There's not one answer that's right or wrong, but there's a cost associated to it.
Sure.
So, and that's for everybody back there cutting meat. That's for me in my position. That's for y'all too. And I've tried to really talk about that in my industry specifically. Is like, you know, not just as employees, mostly as employees, but as employers. Not just mostly as employers, but also as employees. Like, you know, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't be overconfident. Know that you have a lot to learn, because we all do, but also know your worth. And as employers, pay people something respectful that they're going to take pride in coming to work every day. Because money, you know, the creative thing, like with me, like to me, like I love the sound of even this job. Like me coming in, like, hell yeah, like I could do that job. Right? I would love to do that. Like cook Cajun food every day, do plate lunches, but there would be a point in me that was like, ooh, I need to get creative. Like I need to do something that's mine, or like switch or something. And that might not be this place. You know what I mean?
No, that's what we're looking for. When you moving?
We'll talk about my day rate.
You didn't hear the day rate yet. Jesus Christ.
I got a couple questions for you, Jean-Paul. First of all, what are your first memories of the market?
The honest truth to that would have to be the Red Goose Saloon in downtown Thibodaux.
You dirty boy.
I love it.
And I tell you why. At a young age, I started going to the Red Goose. I'm talking like 8, 9, 10 years old, because my dad played bourrée every Wednesday.
Yes,
Doesn't play it anymore. But he did actually, up until like probably 5 years ago, play every Wednesday very regularly for the last 40 years, I would say.
Dang.
He actually was part owner of the Red Goose when they bought it. It was my Uncle Ping. My dad did all the legal stuff. And
we gotta hear a story.
And I think, and I think Coon and a couple other people. Whatever. My dad sold his part, but he always played part of it. And so, obviously, like a lot of those guys, whether it was Goose Burgers during Mardi Gras, which were bought from y'all, I believe, probably still are, or a lot of the other things that were cooked on Wednesdays. That could be smothered pork chops and cabbage. That could be hamburger steaks. All that stuff, typically, from my understanding, came from Bourgeois. And remember, I grew up in Lavitieville, Louisiana, and so it wasn't like we could just jump ship out of Lavitieville and come to Shreveport or Thibodaux and buy meat, right? Like when we were in Thibodaux, when I went to E.D. White and so on and so forth, that became part of it. But I would say like the first time I ever experienced Bourgeois meat market was not at the meat market. It was at
the Red Goose in that back room.
The Red Goose in the back room.
That circle poker table.
That's right. Because all those men, that's what if it wasn't rabbit or something like more obscure, they were coming here to buy all their meat for good reason.
Okay, so one of the first times I met you was 10 or 20 years ago. You were working in New York City at Blue Smoke. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you called me on the phone and asked me for 2,000 pounds of andouille.
Yep.
Any questions?
And he said, I'm sending a 18-wheeler to pick it up. And I'm like, huh? You want what?
Yeah.
So what was that about?
Yeah. I'm a man of big moves, right? So
I hear you. You got any more?
When I got the job at Blue Smoke, I was the youngest executive chef in the restaurant group. Now, USHG, it stands for Union Square Hospitality Group. It's probably the, most successful restaurant group in the country. I was 29 years old and I took the Blue Smoke job. I ran 2 street side locations, airport location, and 2 ballparks.
Oh God!
And so it was my first executive chef job, and I was, and I had a lot going on. It wasn't just one restaurant. So they had the Big Apple Block Party, which Blue Smoke started in coordination, roughly, at this point, 25, 30 years ago. They brought in pitmasters from around the country to cook at Madison Square Park. And it was an incredible weekend. My first, so I got the job like maybe 3 months before the Big Apple Block Party. And it is a mass coordination of getting meat from different places and so on. And I said, man, like, I haven't really cooked in any barbecue restaurants before. I'm just learning this kind of craft. I don't want to put something out that I don't know. Let me put something out that I do know and love. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of tell the world and tell New Yorkers where I was from and kind of the people that I grew up with, or grew up, the kind of food that I grew up eating around. So I use it in a couple of different ways, right? Like it was the Big Apple Block Party, my first black block party, which would have been in, 2014, 2015, I think, something like that. Maybe 2000. Anyways, whatever it was. And I needed kind of an easy way in, because I didn't know. But I knew if y'all would sell me 2,000 pounds of andouille, I could make that into like a really great sandwich with a really great sauce, and it could be one reflective of where I'm from and the kind of flavors. That's the other thing. It's like it's not just about Bourgeois Meat Market andouille sausage. It's about the kind of the iconic or signature flavor of that sausage, just like the beef jerky, right? It's not just about. It's like it's a whole thing that you're getting there. And so it worked in 2 ways. A little bit of storytelling, getting people out where like this is the flavors that I grew up with, but also like what am I going to do in this time span when I don't know what to do, right? Like, and this is my first time. And I cannot believe y'all put that together. Honestly, when you said, I remember the conversation, you were kind of like, well, I think we can do it, or kind of like that, but I'm not sure how we can do it, how we're going to get it there. And I was like, don't worry about logistics. I'll get the truck there, and it worked out.
So there's only been one guy to trump you, but the trigger has not been pulled. But we got a request. This is from, the McGeehees? Gator and all?
Yeah, Gator.
So one of their brothers is in Dubai. He's got like a brewery, distillery, and a restaurant, and he requested a shipping container. He wanted to know how much andouille we can put in a shipping container.
Wow.
I haven't heard it.
Yes.
Wow.
Some math was done. Because for him that's what he wanted. He's like, if I could just get it here on a boat, if I could just get it here, I'll find a place to put it. But
does it still need to be good when it gets there?
A refrigerated shipping container,
right?
No
Frozen.
I want to mention this is a guy. So he has like from what I understand, I'm trying to get him. We're trying to hook up for the podcast, but it's called Bayou Supper Club. They're at some place in Brooklyn. It's more of like a pop up, maybe. I don't know if it's not a food truck. It might be out of like a service window or something at this bar in Brooklyn. But this guy's doing the same thing. He would drive, come visit family, load up the truck, and then go up there. So we're trying to link up on how do we get it over there. But he wants andouille, smoked sausage, tasso, maybe blood boudin. And he's trying to kind of do the same thing over there, is spread this stuff that way. Have actually be able to back up the authentic Cajun sign that, if you go out of state, you see that everywhere. You'll see a Cajun item on a menu, but I don't know what's making it Cajun or.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough market. What's the name of the?
Bayou Supper Club.
I think I've heard of those guys. I don't know why or where. I mean, obviously I spent over a decade in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how long they've been there. 2023 is maybe.
Oh yeah, I might know the bar, or whatever. But man, it's just. I used to ship. about, I don't know, 2 sacks, 80 pounds, 100 pounds of crawfish during the season every year. And we would sell out, but I'd have to sell them for expensive because I'd get them overnighted to New York.
so,
And
yeah.
You'd sell
you
it
know,
boiled?
I sell them boiled as a
Yeah.
plate, like a 2-pound, 3-pound plate with sausage, corn, potatoes at Blue Smoke. But I would need to charge like $40, and that's what we did. It just, man, it's one of those things where you have all these cultures from around the world that have everything from like mom and pop restaurants, could be Ethiopian, Indian, Thai, whatever, like Nepal, like food of Nepal, like I don't know if it's Nepalese or anyways. You can find all those in every little nook and cranny of New York, but finding really good Southern food and to even like shrink it down more, really good Cajun Creole food is almost impossible. It seems impossible, and for some reason that it just like almost like more. Like there's more people more accepting of kind of these other. I'm not going to say obscure, but like not in America kind of cuisines that in New York just seem a little resistant to it. Maybe because they think like everything is gumbo, jambalaya, boiled crawfish, and certainly those are huge parts of Cajun food.
Man, the other problem is if you put Cajun on anything, people assume it's going to be really spicy.
Are blackened.
Right? Spicy or blackened.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
that's
Fried.
not me. I don't cook anything very spicy, know? But we go to these shows and we sample out beef jerky and they look at the pack and they go, "Oh, Cajun, no." Like, put it in your mouth. Like it's not. Don't think about it as a flavor. Think about it as a culture.
Yeah. And I think that cuts both ways because certainly like the idea of Cajun food is very appealing to a lot of people. But I completely hear you on the spice thing. It's definitely a common misconception. In fact, I'm boiling crawfish in Pensacola every week. And our thing was like a 3-pound portion, sausage, potatoes, put in a paper bag and whatever. You eat it at the table, but people are like, "No, 3 pounds, that's way too much." And I'm like, 3 pounds is like 6 ounces of tail meat.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, but people, it's like they don't make that connection. I'm like,
they can't do crawfish math.
25% of the crawfish is edible, if that, like of the weight.
You're
So
gonna eat all this and then you're gonna want another plate. Okay?
So, I think so much of this, and we have a really interesting opportunity with social and digital media, is messaging, marketing on your own. We, more than any time in history, we've had the ability to get messages out there. And I think so much of that is just about how we message what we do and so on and so forth.
Man, this was really good.
I got one last question.
Sure.
Do you live in Pensacola?
I live in Gulf Breeze, which is
Okay.
the barrier island outside of Pensacola.
Sure. So my question is, have you been to Joe Patty's?
I have, yeah.
Is it as awesome as everybody says?
It is.
I keep needing to go.
It is. It reminds me actually a lot of like the butcher shops in New York City. Is just old school blue collar place, family still working there, but a huge selection of fish and seafood, both domestic and from other places. It's certainly, if you're passing through, like, look, as a Louisianian, you can probably get better shrimp, better crawfish, better crabs from underneath the bridge off off the overpass on 90 than you can get at Joe Patty's. But your availability to get swordfish, wahoo, cobia, all
Fresh
these
off the boat, from what I understand.
they have a really, I don't know their full story, but I know that they're really connected into the line caught fishing community, that can sell to restaurants and stuff like that. Like, they have kind of cornered that market, and it's a really impressive place. Just about any fish or seafood that you can think of. But I mean, I think, like, for me, it's one of those places you stop at if you're passing through, for sure. I don't know if I'm going there like destination wise, even if I'm living in like Ocean Springs, or Gulf or Gulf Shores, but certainly a cool place. And it's like, look, I was telling this to my family the other day, is like, nothing lasts forever. No restaurant. I mean, there's some restaurants that are, there's a handful of them that are 100, 200 years old. Mm-hmm. But like a restaurant lasts 20 years, and that's a good run. That's a hell of a good run for a restaurant. And so like Joe Patty's being its institution in that area of Gulf Breeze and Pensacola, that in itself, that they have been able to preserve that business. And again, like all they do is seafood and fish, and they do it exceptionally well, and they steam. That's actually the nice thing. You can go get some Ruby Reds, get them steamed spicy,
nice.
And just eat them right in the thing. Like, though, that's what I like to do actually to Joe Patty's, you know, but
that's cool.
Yeah.
Micah described it to me as the bourgeois meat market of fish. So that's why I've been super excited, super interested in it. And Shane had Chad,
one of the grandsons,
Joe Patty's grandson.
That's
on the podcast.
That's actually a really good comparison. I would say, yeah. You know,
he said you could see it's like at actually both markets, but you had the counter and like you see the guys cleaning fish right in front of you, and
everything's nice and iced down, and they weigh it right there, and you can talk to them about when it was caught and so on and so forth. And
it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and fish and seafood obviously highly perishable. So
have you been to Three Piers?
No.
Cool place.
No. Three Piers.
I'm sure it's nowhere the size of Joe Patty's, but it's very cool. They got all the whole caught on ice, you know, whatever came in that day.
Yeah.
That's my new favorite place right now.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Where is that?
On 90 by Spars.
Okay.
Right next door to Spars in the same parking lot.
I'll have to pass there today.
Yeah, go check them out.
Three Piers.
They buy all their sausage and stuff from us through Spars, so they're always at the market.
Really chainsaws,
really cool place.
And chainsaws speared fish.
Yeah.
That's cool that
speared
you have
fish to them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's not a type of fish, by the way.
All right. Any last?
No, man. Just look. I appreciate getting the platform to
we've been trying to do this for a while. We've been hit and miss with scheduling, and I also have a 6-month-old. It's been refreshing.
Yeah, well, refreshing is one way to put it. That's good. No, thanks for having us, and thanks for continuing on the legacy of Bourgeois Meat Market, and growing it not just to Thibodaux but now into Gray, and making it even more accessible. I get people all the time that seem like, I mean, at least once a month that say, "Hey, I'm going on a work trip and I'm passing through and I need to get on 90. What should I get at Bourgeois?" And I usually give them my rundown of what I do. And I think it's really good to get people to have a little easier access coming on the road. And it's nice that y'all are here and growing that footprint. And one thing that I'm actually about to go to J. Scheck-Snyder's, and we have I think we had a $1,500 processing bill for ducks, for mallards.
God.
So we
try to get 300 pounds of sausage.
We had 200 something pounds. Or I think we had like 150 pounds of mallard breast, skin on mallard breast, that we brought. And I got to go. That's where I'm heading from here. I'm going to load up my coolers.
Y'all did sausage?
Yeah, we did. We did like 3 different types of sausage.
Yeah.
And
we get some guys that'll do duck or goose summer sausage.
Yeah.
And it comes out really good.
Yeah. I like the summer sausage. The thing about me, and I told him, I was like, man, we need to get some fresh sausages made, because like the summer sausage, like I can't have $800 worth of summer sausage.
Yeah,
like that's all I can do with summer sausage, is slice and eat it in crackers. But if I have some fresh sausage or some smoked sausage without the jalapeno and cheese, although I love that, I can't do much. I can't make all the different recipes that I want.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the smart thing to do. We got guys
especially
that'll get
much.
200 pounds of smoked jalapeno cheese with pepper jelly in it. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, you can't even make a gumbo.
Yeah. Slice it.
Or give it away.
Yeah, give it away. So anyway, that's what I'm about to go do. So look, if for those who listen, Chef Jean_Paul on Instagram, just keep an eye out on the Stir the Pot Entertainment YouTube channel. I'll be messaging in a lot of that once, actually this week. On this week would be March 28th, this Friday. I don't know when this is going to air, but that'll be coming online soon, so you can find kind of even more digestible pieces of Duck Camp Dinners content that we've taken over 3 seasons and put it on that channel, and really focusing more on the cooking aspect as well, expanding that kind of chef's cut of that cooking segment. So it should be fun, and we'll see how it goes. And obviously, I don't get to answer all questions or comments that people send to me, but I truly do appreciate them and love answering them, especially if I can be helpful in a way. I can't always just regurgitate a recipe to everyone, by the way. It doesn't work that way. But if you have some questions about cooking food, I would love to answer you on that. And so just you can hit me up on direct messages or things like that, and I'd love to help.
On the podcast link on our website, also, if you just scroll down, there's a form right there, and if you have any questions for them, you can leave them there, and we'll get into them and get them answered, and probably push them out on Facebook, something like that.
That'd be awesome.
Are you still writing? You say you're doing some long form writing? Are you still writing for like Louisiana Cooking or something like that?
I'm still the editor at large for Louisiana Cooking magazine. So we publish six editorials a year. I actually have to write about shrimp and the Shrimp Petroleum Festival this year, and that whole thing that happened there. I'm writing about the catfish coubillon lost in translation, because that word coubillon is from a French word, and it evolved in such a big way when it came to Louisiana. So I'll write an article on that. And then another one is my favorite, speaking of, a heat map of plate lunches around South Louisiana. So,
we're too late for that one.
It's not till July or August. Y'all got time. Oh, man.
White bean sandwich it is. Cold white bean sandwich.
I used to serve that as a past hors d'oeuvre. I used to do tea sandwiches of toasted white bread and then cold white beans and ham inside, and that was like a beer drinking snack.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, this was awesome. Appreciate you. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge, and I gained a lot from it. I'm sure Bo did as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I hope everyone else does.
Yeah, I thank you for your time, gentlemen, and it's been a blast. And now I need to go pick up some meat and then go pick up a 3-year-old and get back to Florida. But so I appreciate you making time for me.
All right, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
so much.
it.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this episode of the Miracles in Meat podcast. We ask that you share it with at least one person in your life that you think needs to hear it. If you got a little something from it, you got some little goose pimples, or it just gave you some feel goods, send it to someone else. Let them feel that too. And if you loved it, please leave us a 5-star review. That'll really help out. And if you only loved it like 4 stars worth of, please do not leave a review. Same thing with the 1 through 3. Not interested in any of those, only 5 stars. If you have any personal questions or comments about the episode, shoot them over to Bourgeois Meat Market on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll reach back out. And if you have any ideas for any cool future guests, please shoot those over too. We're always interested in hearing who else is out there and what kind of cool stories we might be able to bring into this place. See you next time. Thanks for listening.